All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Simply Finance with Shane White. Today is a very special episode. It's our second guest on the podcast, and none other than Thorn Murphy, a longtime friend, used to be a colleague, worked together at my first real job at a college at Cummins. He was kind of like a big bro on my finance team. He's a few years older than me and taught me a lot of stuff and had a couple fun years together down at Cummins. So Thorn, though, I let him kind of go into his background a little bit, but I thought he'd be someone great to have on the podcast. He has a little bit different finance background than me, and I think he's in a really cool spot right now that I think a lot of you could gain a lot of value from. So without further ado, welcome, Thorn. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me. You just want me to get back into kind of my background to explain to
Sure,
everybody?
yeah. You want to just
and
give a
go from
little
there?
rundown of you and we can go from there?
So, start with the highlights. I am married with two kids, Chase and Carson, 4 and 2 years old. I'm born and raised out of Columbus, Indiana, Cummins headquarters, right? So I went up through school through Columbus, and then I went to Butler University where I majored in finance. After I got my degree, I went on to Cummins Financial Development Program, where I was there for 2 years. Traveled every 6 months around the world. And then I spent another 5 years at Cummins before Geisting Financial reached out to me, and they asked if I could run the Columbus, Indiana Geisting Financial office. And it was just too good of an opportunity for me to pass up. So I decided to take the leap of faith, and I've been here, been a financial advisor for a little more than 2 years now.
Awesome. Very cool. What I was curious, because we hadn't really talked about this off the podcast, but was financial planning, that was always something you were passionate about, right? Like that was kind of what you knew you wanted to do long term?
Yes. So when I was in college, I never wanted to work at Cummins, just because um, being from Columbus, I knew everybody that seemed like they had worked at Cummins. And don't get me wrong, Cummins was a great company, did great things by me. I enjoyed my time there. But when I was in college, I interned for the company that we just recently bought out,
Oh, wow.
as well as Merrill Lynch there in Indianapolis. So it was always something that I was leaning towards. But I did an internship with Cummins before my senior year, and they gave me a job offer before my senior year.
Oh,
So it
awesome.
was like, and in 2012, the economy was a little rough, and
Right.
it was a lot more security aspect of it. I mean, I was 21, 22 years old, and I'm supposed to go to people and say, hey, invest your money with me, and I don't have any experience. So going the Cummins route actually helped me in the long run, because let alone I got to know a lot more people.
Oh, sure.
But just so running your own business, you get that aspect, especially in plant finance at Cummins. So you understand looking at the P&L balance sheet, more the accounting side of running a business. Now I had to learn a lot of the advising side of it, but that's something that I feel like I quickly picked up on, and it was something I was always passionate about. So it was pretty easy
Yeah. No, that's an interesting
to make that
route.
transition.
Yeah, because I feel like, and I'm sure you were the same way, I feel like a lot of people I went to school with in college, most people either were going this corporate finance route, and then you had a few people doing the like advising route. But I don't know very many people that did the corporate, got the experience, and probably a little more the age that people need to trust with their wealth, and then jumped. I think it's cool. It's like it was a cool opportunity you got to do.
Yeah, it is a weird dynamic. Now, a lot of my clients come from those relationships that I have built over those years.
Right.
So it's a lot of the way I look at it, it speaks volume that I did a good enough job at my previous roles that they trust me to handle their own personal finances. So it's like, okay, I would have never had that connection if I would have made the jump right out of college.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. Right. Yeah, you would have been like going to friends and family probably first.
Well, you still go to friends and family first. Don't get me wrong, but as soon as you start picking it up, and then you get a couple years under your belt. And what's really helped me is I interned with a guy here in town, and Geisting Financial, we're merging the practice, and it's pretty much the acquisition. But he's in his 60s.
Okay.
So when he's in his 60s, he has a lot of older clientele.
Sure.
And we're transitioning his clientele to me. I want to say older is older than my clientele. I don't want to do it that way. But
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
um, yeah, I mean, he's an older gentleman, and his friends, his family, everybody's older. So what has helped is he's been staying on for the past couple of years, and he's going to stay on for the next year or two, working on the transition of his clients.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so it's been a really good transition for us. But now transition was very difficult. Hundreds of families in a
Yeah.
couple of months transitioning them over, but that has helped me with referral piece of it, because at first you're doing the friends and family,
Mhm.
and then you're trying to start networking and get stuff outside of there. But when you have a bigger nest, so to speak, that can refer you, uh, hey, I'm in it for a couple of years with these clients, and they're realizing I'm doing a great job for them. So the referral, how do I say this? The referral basket
Yeah.
is getting greater and greater. So referrals keep coming in. So that's a good spot where we're in right now.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So you actually have like a change of leadership coming soon.
Yeah.
And
So the way we're structured as a financial advisor, so we I'm a my our RIA is Prime Capital Investment Advisors.
okay.
So we're technically underneath them, but we're independent at the same time. Our company is called Geisting Financial. So there's two other advisors in Batesville, Indiana, and they were looking to expand to kind of a little bit bigger of a city,
Okay.
and Columbus was a logical choice for them. So they wanted to open a Geisting Financial in Columbus.
Got it.
So through conversations, they got a hold of my name, and then one thing led to the other, and then now we're here.
Networking. Love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I think I sent you over a couple things I was thinking it'd be cool to talk about. And I think for like the audience that we have for Simply Finance, I thought what would be cool, we kind of lean a little bit to the younger, like middle age to younger demographic. And
Okay.
so I know for me personally, without speaking for anyone else, like coming from finance, I always have been the kind of person that I feel like I can handle all of it. I'm like, oh, I have a finance background. I work in finance. Like, I want to do all my own investing and retirement planning. But then I know I've talked to you, and I have a few other friends that I've talked to in the advising side that, like, it's amazing every time I talk to someone in that line of work how much I don't know, obviously. And so I think it'd be interesting to kind of just chat through, like, almost like a 101 of like what you guys do, and then like how at a very high level, maybe like, how do you how should people think about that even at like our age, in our late 20s, early 30s, and we have a long life ahead of us, hopefully.
Okay. I mean, so what we end up doing at Geisting Financial is we're a comprehensive planning firm. So the first thing that we end up doing is getting all the information. So um, with getting the information, what do you have any investments currently? Do you have a budget that's in place? Do you have a will setups? We do you have life insurance? So we do the whole shebang. So it's not just, hey, give me your money, let us invest.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
and most of the people who are younger want to focus on just the investing part, right?
Sure.
And
Want
hey,
the
I
money
understand.
growth and want the, yeah.
Yeah, and that's understandable. But to be able to start investing, I got to make sure that that client has emergency fund, or if say you come to me and say, hey, I want to invest $5,000. Well, you have $5,000 in your savings account, you don't have anything else, right? It's
Okay.
not smart for me to take that money and invest,
Got it.
because you need to have an emergency fund set up. So we always start with kind of a budget. It doesn't matter if you have millions of dollars or rubbing pennies together. Uh, for a foundational plan, budgeting always starts at number one.
Got it.
But just to make sure that, hey, I have this X disposable income. I can choose to do what I want with it. If I have debt, it depends on everybody's situation is different. But we just don't look at, hey, okay, this person wants to invest this money. I'm going to invest it. I don't care about the rest of their finances or anything.
Right.
So it just leads into the following steps. In an investment piece of it, I have a viewpoint on investments when people are just starting out. So I like when people have a 401k that they can contribute to, right?
Okay.
Hey, I don't get paid on it, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
I want someone to take advantage of the free money as much as possible.
Sure. Okay.
So there's the steps that I usually take is, hey, contribute to your 401k or 403b, whatever your company offers if they offer it. If not, then we need to start taking advantage of a Roth IRA. So it's kind of, hey, get the match at the company. Then the next step is fully fund your Roth if you're eligible.
Okay.
So for the 101 Roth discussion is a Roth is, so it's already taxed money. So it's in your bank account and then we invest it. And then all the growth in that account is tax free when you pull it out at retirement.
Right.
So
Okay.
I always use this. So we use the saying as, would you rather, we're in Indiana, so we're a big farming
Of course.
area. Would you rather pay taxes on the seed or the crop? So
Oh,
if
that's a cool
a
analogy.
Roth IRA, you're paying it on the seed. A traditional IRA is on the crop. So a lot of 401ks have Roth options now. Now make sure your company matches on the Roth portion if you do it.
Okay.
But most of the time they only match your pre-tax portion. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
So but there's usually steps, and especially if you start having children, you need to get protected.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
a version of life insurance as well for people in the 20s and 30s. I mean, you can get $1 million of coverage for $500 a year. I mean,
Oh, wow.
it's not that expensive for 20
Yeah.
years. You pay it in. But so there's multiple elements to that as well.
Okay. Got it.
So it's just whatever they want to provide, or what are the goals, because, and that's probably even before any of this, is what do you want to accomplish by coming to me? Like, what do you want to get set up? Most of the time for people who are younger are, I just want this money to grow, baby.
Yeah. Right. For sure. Oh, yeah. But
And
especially if
it's
you're
like,
like, if
okay,
you're in one of your first jobs, I think like at that time you're
yeah.
just thinking about there's so much runway and you think you're going to make so much more of your lifetime. You just want to make money, make money.
And I noticed a lot of younger clients get a little more. So if the do-it-yourselfers kind of,
Yeah.
they get a
Exactly.
little more, a little more paranoid when the market is has all this volatility.
Sure.
Than people who are just set it and forget it.
Right.
And your 401ks, any stuff that you can't touch to your 59 and a half anyway, it's best, hey, whatever your risk tolerance is, if it's grip it and rip it, just keep it, let it ride.
Love it.
Don't try
Yeah.
to don't try to time the market. Most of the time, I would say, not all the time, but usually it's a losing battle if you try to time the market. It's more about time in the market versus timing the market.
Honestly, that's like the
So
good old Warren Buffett saying.
yeah, I mean, it's true though.
Yeah.
I mean, right now is a good time to kind of look at that, because especially people our age now, it's different when you're getting older or closer to retirement. But if you ended up right after this pandemic occurred in 10 days, the market went down like 30 some percent, right?
Right.
Or, I mean, it went down significantly. And he said, hey, I can't handle anymore. I'm getting out. I'm going to move to cash. Well, if you stayed out this last month, you missed one of the best months
Yeah.
in the
Right.
history of the stock market. So, and then all of a sudden you get back in now,
Yep.
and there's potential. There's a lot of earnings reports in that you could end up getting negatively hit twice.
Yeah.
But if you
You're
stayed
right.
in there, you're going to have your ebbs and flows. So it's trying to talk. One of our biggest things is educating the client and trying to make them to do the smartest decision possible.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I work for these clients.
Yeah.
So I just can give them the advice and then do what they have the final say. And sometimes that's hard. And sometimes I'm not necessarily the best fit for some clients because if they don't take my advice, there's no real relationship there. So it's like,
Right.
okay, but everybody's different on that regard.
I'm sure. I'm sure. You covered a lot there. I think what the beginning you said I thought was interesting is you start with a budget, and it's something I haven't really talked about on this podcast, but it's amazing to me as I meet more people and talk to more people that are even our age or actually even older that have never done a budget really, and they've always just kind of made it work and made their payments and try to save some here. And do you have, I guess my question would be, do you have suggestions for people if they are working with you or not? Like, how do you start a budget? Like what's a good tool or a place, or what do you suggest?
The easiest way we create for our company, we've created a Excel document for the
Okay.
client.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to use mine. What I started out with when I was at Cummins, and I've always been on this kind of side of things anyway, is
Sure.
I listed out, my wife and I both worked at Cummins. So we got paid on the 1st and the 15th,
Uh-huh.
So I split it out for first 2 weeks and first half of the month, second half of the month, what bills were going to come in. And I just said, hey, my income flows, my expenses, and I try to stick to that as much as possible. Depends if my wife had anything to do with it or not. but then I had a discretionary income bucket where it
Okay.
was like, okay, hey, if we had a little bit of extra spending, it came out of that bucket. But the remainder, I tried to put it to work because we were in a good situation where we worked for a couple years before we got married. So that emergency fund bucket was already full.
Okay.
So we got to the point where our emergency fund was full. That discretionary income was either being spent or being invested.
Okay.
So,
And
and
I guess
then,
to go back real quick too, I think this is something I hear different across the board. What is your suggestion on like a healthy emergency fund?
so it depends. That's an interesting question. Usually, if you want to go from 3 to 6 months, is usually pretty healthy. It
Okay.
depends on um, 3 to 6 months of expenses.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you know that of your expense. So in some people, for that sleep quota, they want to sleep at night, just knowing they have that cash. Let's move it towards 6 months, especially when you're younger. I see a lot of people that get a couple $1,000s in their savings account, and then they're like, "Hey, let's invest." And it's like, "Hey, let's build this up a little bit." If you lost your job, you have to pull all this out immediately and pay a 10% penalty of a traditional IRA, right?
Right.
So we need to be fiduciaries of our clients' money.
Okay.
But if you end up looking at roughly, if you could do about 3 months and be pretty comfortable, but some people couldn't sleep at night knowing that they only had that much money in there. So then we lean towards the 6 months. Anything above that, hey, let's get to work.
Yeah, and I would think even after all the COVID time, all this stuff that people are probably gonna, the amount of people that are losing their jobs today, you have to imagine that a lot of that will change, and people will probably start leaning on the 6 month or even who knows. It just seems like having cash is this is very evident how important it is to have stuff that you can use. If your job isn't here
Well,
tomorrow.
for sure, because I mean, if you look at it from an investment point of view, let alone comprehensive planning, is hey, you need that emergency fund just for situations like, hey, you lose your job. But you also want to be able to not have to access your investments during a down market.
Yeah.
So the last thing you want to do is pull from a depreciating asset.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
in
Right.
that
Right.
so, I mean, say you have $100,000 in the account, the market goes 10%, but you pull out another 10%, right? So you're at $80,000. If the market goes up 20%, you're still not at $100,000.
Right.
So like it doesn't work that way. So if you can keep that 10% out of there and the market goes up close to half that, a little bit more, then you're back to square one instead of having to pull out of a depreciating asset.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
So when that regarding that topic, that's where a lot of our whole life insurance concepts come into play.
Okay.
So a lot of people have mixed emotions about it. So if you talk to like Dave Ramsey, he does
Yeah, I was gonna
not
say,
like
yeah.
he does not like whole life insurance because it is expensive.
Okay.
But there is multiple evidence out there. You use wealth building cornerstones that most of the time you will be. Well, I say most of the time, almost all the time, you will be in a better situation if you have whole life insurance and investments versus just one or the other. So
Got it.
the reason that
Could you
is
maybe
because,
even real quickly explain what whole life insurance is for people that don't know?
okay, so you have multiple things of life insurance. I mainly deal with term and whole life. I keep it very simple. Term is, hey, you're renting it. So for 20-year term, say, like I said, $1,000,000 for $500. It depends on your health, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But so you pay $500 a year for 20 years. If you don't use it, you lose it. Hopefully you don't use it.
Okay.
And then it's gone. And then if you want to get new insurance after the 20 years when you're 50, you have to get retested and everything.
Yeah. So it's like an insurance policy in case something happens to you, but you don't get anything at the end if you're okay.
No, you do not. Now, this is, you can convert some of that from term to whole life insurance. That's a whole different discussion as well.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, sure.
well, whole life insurance is more expensive, a lot more expensive, but it lasts for you forever. So with clients that are relatively younger, um, I like doing, well, or not alone younger, everywhere. I like doing what's called like a 10 pay.
Okay.
So you pay for it for 10 years and you're done.
Oh,
But so you pay 10 years for life insurance and then it's with you forever. And that dividend keeps on increasing that value in that cash value in the whole life insurance. So there's two different buckets. You have your death benefit and your cash value. So a lot of tax-free growth as well. So we use it as a tax-free growth bucket. So right now you could pull out of that cash value. Say sorry, this is, I'm
no,
trying to go
I think
multiple.
this is interesting because like
Okay.
I don't think a lot of people know the intricacies of this stuff until you talk to someone like you, to be honest.
So whole life insurance works a lot differently than like a 401k. So to put in perspective, they work completely opposite.
Okay.
So with a 401k, you are getting, or a traditional IRA, you are getting the benefit now. Hey, you don't have to pay any taxes on it, right? So you're getting a benefit, and at the end, you have to pay taxes on all that money, all of it, all the
Right.
growth,
And you're
everything.
also paying whatever the tax rate is then, right? We don't know
Yes.
what it will be in the future.
And if you had to assume that we just gave out $6 trillion of
Yeah.
money, I would
A
have
little detail.
it's no big deal. I would assume that would go up, but you never know.
Sure. Yeah.
But whole life insurance, you don't see the cash value rise at the beginning, right?
Okay.
So say you did a $10,000 a year 10 pay. So I just wrote a $15,000 10 pay product.
Okay.
Kids are 30 years old, 30 and 28. Year one, roughly, the death benefit was around $600,000.
Oh,
So
wow.
so you put $15,000 in. If you die the next day, you got $600,000.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
but as time goes on, and you put that $15,000, you put $150,000 in, right? That you have cash value in there sitting at that account. That
And
is
that's just what you contributed to it? Or is it?
well, that you get a dividend in it, and it ranges different
Okay.
companies, but say 4 to 5% dividend that gets put into that cash value each year. But even after year 10, you're done paying it. That money is still getting credited to your cash value in your account, and your death benefit is
Oh.
growing at the same time. So you could use it as a tax-free bucket of growth that you can pull from yourself, and you could use that money as pretty much, instead of you going to the bank to get your loan, you can go to your whole life insurance contract and that would be your loan. You
Oh,
just
you
pay
see,
yourself.
you can take it out and it doesn't cost anything?
No. So pretty much, say your death benefit, you needed 30K to pay for a car or vehicle. You
Yeah.
take 30K down. Most of the time it just pulls down your death benefit by $30,000. But you already put it
Oh.
in. There's there's a lot of ways, and there's multiple books that are out there about, hey, The Power of Zero is a really good book. But it's trying to get it to, you put X amount of dollars in for 10 years, let it grow for a certain period of time. You pull all that money back out,
Okay.
right? And then you still have a death benefit. So there's a
Even if you take
situation,
all the money back out, you still have a death benefit?
all the money you contributed into it, then you still have the death benefit. You paid yourself back and it's all good.
Oh, I didn't
So,
realize that's how that worked.
so there's a lot of illustrations that you can go into, but
Sure.
hold on a second. Let me try to think of, because it was Warren Buffett does this a lot. I forget the saying that he ended up using. Um, It'll come to me,
Okay.
but he ends up leveraging his life insurance policies to fund other things. So,
Got it. Oh, so
um,
he holds his own life insurance policies and then will pull from that at times to
yeah,
do whatever he wants, invest, buy
yeah.
things. Yeah, whatever.
So, but a lot of the times is, a lot of people use, it's called taming the bear, or how there's multiple sayings. But what you want to do is, when you have both of them during times of, especially when you're in retirement, you have your investments and you have a whole life insurance policy in place.
Okay.
If you still need money to live off of, instead of pulling off the icing off the cake in your investments, as it deteriorates, say it goes down 30%, and there's no reason if you're retired that it should have went down 30%,
Right.
just because your risk tolerance, but you pull from your life insurance contract instead of your investment. And then as that investment grows, then you pay your life insurance contract back if you want to.
Got it.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's more, that's not 101, but that's a little bit more in
No,
depth.
that's great. And then, so I guess a question that comes up right away to me would be, what's the value of having a whole life and term at the same time?
So great question, because we do that as well. We practice what you preach. But
Okay. Yeah.
so when I get, we get whole life insurance put in place, but most of the time I follow it up with them getting a term policy in place as well.
Okay.
So for example, Shane, how are you? 29?
28.
28. Okay. So say you have a $5,000 10 pay, right? You're paying 5 grand. And then I say, hey, we should get a 20-year convertible term policy for 20 years. And it's for $1 million, right?
Okay.
So it's really cheap. You get $1 million there, and you got that 5,000, probably give you a couple $100,000, right?
Got it. Yes.
But as you start getting older, you'll start getting more assets typically, right?
Yeah. Right.
So, well, and things could happen from here in the next 20 years that you become uninsurable. So when you get a convertible term insurance policy, so I got you a 20-year convertible term, I can convert that term insurance into whole life based off of your age when you got licensed or when you took the test.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so if I say now we got you a whole life insurance policy or a term insurance policy right now, and then in 5 years from now you have a heart attack, stroke, or something, well, we could convert that entire $1 million into whole life because you've already been tested at when you were 28 years old.
Got it.
So,
Oh,
so,
interesting.
so we use that kind of like, hey, on deck analogy. Hey, this
Yeah.
term insurance is just on deck, so we can convert more and more. So as you get older, it gets more and more expensive. So
Sure. That makes sense. Obviously, bigger risk and
yeah.
to the
So,
policy, right?
and that's how we end up using that aspect of it. I mean, you take in consideration if you have both of them, you're paying a fraction of a percent of what you're doing for the whole life as well. And everybody's different.
Got it. Okay.
So
Wild. Okay. Cool. That's great. I honestly learned something there. So that's super interesting. I appreciate that. Very detailed understanding. I think, and you mentioned this a little bit too. I think the other question I would have would be, so if you're someone who has never talked to an advisor before, or even someone, I guess, who has a plan with you or anyone else, is with everything going on in the economy now and the uncertainty, and honestly, like no one really knows what's going to happen. Is this an even more important time to start talking to someone like you? Like, what are you telling, your clients, and like, how are you thinking about the pandemic? I think like with wealth management and the stock market in general, it's like, it's such a hot topic right now that just like, what do we do? And I think everyone has different opinions. So I would just be curious on how you guys are thinking about it.
Yeah, so, and that's a good question because multiple advisors think of this differently, right? I think it's always critical for someone, no matter what your age, to meet with a financial advisor just to get kind of their overall feedback to see where they're at, if they're on track. But based off of their goals, like what the individual client wants to accomplish, their plan is going to be different, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
when we're end up meeting with someone and the stock market's going haywire, um, like it is now, but it's doing it's bouncing back pretty good
Yeah.
right
Right.
now. But the thing is, when we end up meeting with clients, we end up trying to turn the discussion not all about the returns, right?
Okay.
So if I sit down with Shane White and say, hey, if we're contributing X, this is what we're doing, this is what we're saving, we have insurance, this is when we want to retire by, et cetera, et cetera. All I care about is trying to make sure the White family is on track to achieve their goals, right?
Okay.
So
Right.
we end up having those discussions and say, hey, where are we at with the White index, right?
Yes.
How are you doing with your plan? Now, granted, returns are always going to be a discussion, and like how our firm stacks up against anybody else.
Okay.
But the comprehensive planning, if you have no money or you have a lot of money, is critical because you don't know where to start without having the budget or
Right.
having what you want to accomplish. You
Yeah.
can't plan for something that you don't have any idea about.
Yeah. It's like you can't. Yeah. You only improve the things you track. Right. I've heard that
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
before. And no different with your finances.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like the thing is, a lot of people end up saying like I write things down every day that I want to get accomplished, right?
Yeah.
And
Same here.
I am on the firm belief is you will it into existence type of thing. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to get X, Y, and Z done today, and I'm going to get it done. So if you don't write it down, have a written plan in front of you, so you say, hey, I'm going to stick to this, then you're just out there just saying, hey, I'm going to run this roller coaster. Hope my advisor's got me. Hey, hope he's looking out for it, but
Right.
I don't know what that really means to the end game.
Right. I feel like that, and that maybe is
Avengers.
I feel like as a young person, that's probably a misconception too. Talking to you, and we've talked about it before, but it's like an advisor's not, it's not like you have like a crystal ball that like you can just predict everything. You're trying to get people to do the right things and plan for their future and think about things are probably not the potholes they're not expecting in the road ahead and making sure they're protected in lots of different ways, it sounds like.
Yeah, and the different investment avenues as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, when you sit down there and
Diversifying, right?
yeah, diversifying, let alone your investment or like let alone like what your actual investments are, but diversifying between hey, Roth, traditional, hey, maybe annuity, life insurance, the products as well.
Okay. Yeah.
If it applies. So it's just that's what I love about this job is that everybody is so different. They
Right.
view things differently and what are their priorities. So you end up taking a seat and you end up saying, okay, you have to push away kind of what I think should be done all the time,
Right.
because their goals are different than what my goals would be, right? So, I mean, right now hey, I want to end up being able to retire, right?
Yeah.
But, and that's a long way down the road. But some people are just like, hey, I just want to get by. And it's like,
Sure.
I just want to have enough money where I don't want to leave enough money to the kids. I want it to be all gone when I pass. And it's like, okay, well, you can pull more money out than what the typical recommendation would be. So
Okay.
it should,
So it
so
really depends
it,
on what your goals are. I mean, it all comes down to exactly what you
yeah.
want,
And you
which
build a
makes sense.
relation and you build a relationship with the advisor and the advisor starts to know you and understand you better over time. And it's just a trust relationship uh, for a course of multiple years. And it can't just be, hey, we met that one time and
Yeah.
then here's your money. I won't talk to you ever again. Just let me know
Right.
how it goes. So
Right. Okay. And then so if you're someone who, wants to get into this, I guess what would someone expect if they were to, reach out to you tomorrow and want to start the process? Like, what does the process kind of look like? I think you kind of hit on it at the beginning, but I'd be curious to know like how the process kind of works, and then like how often are you guys talking? Is that something that's kind of different depending on the client, I'm sure?
yeah, so every client has a different how often they want to meet. I mean, and it doesn't have to be dollar amount either. So I have sorry, I have clients that have significant everything significant amount of money. You have realized that someone who has $50,000 of their life savings, that's super significant to them, right? And you
Yeah.
have somebody with a couple $1,000,000, and it's like in their eyes, that's everything to them. So it's all relative. But I have some people that are very wealthy that just want to talk once a year. I have some
Gotcha.
people that don't have that much, but they want to talk once a month. So it's all relationship, just everybody how they want to talk. But typically, I end up starting our meeting. We have a prospect meeting, right? Initial meeting where I get key information. So I get, hey, do you have a budget in place? Do you have a will put in place? Do you, they're an older couple, for the will, the legacy planning aspect of it? Do you have any current investments? What are your expenses? So, I mean, we have this
Right.
sheet.
Yeah.
What's your income, expenses? We get the whole complete picture. And what we end up doing is we have a conversation, but it's all led with what they want to accomplish with the meeting. But after that, we end up using a tool called eMoney, where it's a financial website. So it's like Shane White's financial website where it links all the investments, can link your bank statement, link your mortgage, link everything.
Oh, wow.
So only thing you want to need to go to is just that one website, and then you can see how my net worth, my investments are doing, how my budget's going against everything.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
so we end up inputting that all, and then we make recommendations out of that software saying, hey, you have X disposable income. I would put 200 a month into each one of your Roths. And then, so it's just step by step. It's not just, hey, we sit down, we get your information, here you go, next day you sign.
Yeah.
It
Right.
is getting to know them. And then it's a process. It's not just, we're not, it's not a salesy role either.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
So,
it sounds like it's much more of a relationship than anything.
and that's what creates that stickiness,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Right.
We've realized that a lot of advisors that are just, hey, it's transactional based.
Yeah.
A lot of people view that, and this is an insurance salesman type of thing, and
Definitely.
we don't like that stigma at all, because I mean we're not going to be pushing you to make it. We want you to take your time. Now, yeah, I would love for a lot of people to become my clients,
Right.
but
Right.
I don't view it that if I'm pushy, that's going to do me any good in the long run. So
Yeah. Definitely. It's that trust.
mhm.
And I'm sure it's important. And you hit on you. So I mean, that's cool. I didn't understand the background of like some of these tools that you guys use, obviously, but I think that was gonna be my last main question was, do you guys also have a perspective on guiding people through? I mean, we used to talk about this. We worked at Cummins, but I've always felt like going through college, getting a finance degree, and getting out. I feel like I spent so much time looking at like income statements and a lot of corporate finance roles, but I didn't know like anything about my student loans until I got out. I didn't know like how expensive of a car can I buy? Like
Yeah.
what kind of house can I afford? Like all that stuff I kind of had to figure out on my own, even going through with a finance degree. So do you guys help with some of that stuff too, like debt and what people can take on and trying to like be a coach in that regard?
Yeah, well, a lot of more recently, we've had discussions around refinancing houses.
Yep. We just did that.
And so, yeah, so a lot of people are like, hey, I have debt. I have some, so say you have a lot of equity in your house, say you were gifted some portion of a house or something like that. Well, student loans are still, you have nothing to tie it against to. So the interest
Yeah.
rates are still a little higher. But if you have enough equity in your house, or you could refinance your house with a very low interest rate and flip your student loan debt into that. So you're paying 3% instead of
Oh,
6 or
really?
7.
You can
Yeah.
move them
So,
into one loan?
well, if you have the ability, if you have enough money, right, you
Oh,
could
yeah.
refinance at a higher amount. So say you had $100,000, your house was worth $200,000, you owed $100,000.
Right.
You owed 50 on your student loans, right? Well, instead of having a mortgage and student loans that you have $50,000 on, you're paying $600-700 on it probably a month.
Yeah.
You could end up rolling that. So if you have more than 20% equity, right? So
Right.
if you could get a loan, technically every bank's going to be different, but say you needed to get 160, so you refinance
Oh,
your
I see what you're
house for
saying. Yeah.
160, take that cash and pay off that student loan, and just have your mortgage. You still have equity in your house, but you're not
Oh,
making a
right.
seven.
So it's like a
So
home
and
equity line, kind of. It's kind of the
yeah,
same thing.
it's multiple. Yeah,
Yeah, because you're basically
line of,
rolling in another loan. Got it.
yeah.
Okay, and then you're going to save over time and interest. That makes sense. Totally. Got it.
Yeah. So, and it also allows you, for that difference of money that you saved, to invest.
Right. Okay.
So there's multiple, and I haven't done that a lot with student loans because a lot of those people, I haven't done that with student loans yet. But a lot of people who have the equity in their houses are older,
Yes.
so they're paying off other debts with that aspect of it. But
Right. Okay.
some of those people have 5-6% interest rates on their house, and they refinance for 3. That 3% difference over 30 years is going to be a significant amount of money.
Significant. Yeah, I was shocked at that. We just went from a 30 to a 15 and just couldn't believe running those numbers, how much you, at the end of the day on a house, it's crazy how much you're going to actually spend once you factor in interest and the time. It's wild. It
So
can be a lot of money.
why'd you go to the 15?
So we had a relatively high rate because we put both our names on the mortgage, and we both had good credit scores, but my wife's was just slightly below like excellent, so our rate was a little bit higher. So obviously with the rates dropping, we just reached back out to our banker, and the rates were less. We cut our rate by over 50%, and then we decided to look at just putting my name on the mortgage, hers on the title still, but just mine on the mortgage because my credit score was higher, and it went down even more. So we cut it in half, and we're gonna pay a couple $100 extra a month. So just like the numbers to me, I was like, we can stretch it a little bit further from when we bought the house. We're doing okay, and I mean, 15 to 30, it's gonna be like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of interest we're gonna save over the life of the loan. So
yeah.
I was pumped. I've always wanted to try to do the 15 just because I've been reading so much about, if you can do that, that's just like an amazing thing to be able to do for wealth long term. It just seemed like it was going to be too much, but with the rates coming down, I think we kind of got in at the perfect time too.
Yeah.
We reached out like right when the coronavirus stuff started happening. So we kind of got the ball rolling, and then it seems like so many people flooded the market that things kind of bounced the other way. So I think we got a little bit of luck too.
Yeah. Well, no, so it's interesting that you say that because there is 2 different trains of thought with that as well, with the refinancing to 30 years or 15 years, right? So it depends where your head's at, right? Where your mind's at is like, hey, do I want to pay off my house sooner, or do I want to have more cash in hand, right?
Right.
So typically paying off your house is an emotional decision, not a financial decision.
Sure.
Say, for example, you ended up having a 30-year loan for the same amount, but you lowered the interest rate by half still, right?
Right.
So that savings of you being able to put aside, if you're diligent and invest that difference.
Yes.
Right. There's ways to do that. Now, people who are not, hey, if it hits that bank account, it's gone, baby. It's gone.
Right.
Then you're not in a better spot financially. But if you can invest that aspect of it, and this is what Ramsey says in like whole life insurance, right?
Right.
The difference is there's a tool. The whole life insurance is a tax-free investment tool that you can use.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's a different aspect of that. But yeah, it's interesting.
I see what you're saying. So you're saying I could have kept the 30, got the rate savings, not as much as the 15, but still it would have been quite a bit of a rate savings. As long as I just like acted like that money was already being spent and put it into something that's working harder,
But
Yeah, I definitely kicked that idea around. I definitely was like looking into it, and then I don't know what we finally were just like,
but
let's
say
try to do
you
it.
ended up, say what you saved would be $500-$600 a month. I don't know,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Say you did that for the next 15 years.
Yeah,
Would that, with growth and say moderate, say 4% interest rate
right.
year, what would that account be if you end up at the end of 15 years? If you put that money away, you could have probably wrote a check to the bank and still had more money left over,
I see what you're saying. Yes,
right? But you
right.
have to have a plan and follow it, right?
Yep, right,
So the hard part is things happen in life.
right.
So you have to eat in that emergency fund. You might have to take from that fund. So it's all of what that individual client feels more confident in. So my parents, they've been, I mean, this is part about the way they were raised and everything. They didn't want to have any debt.
Yes.
And so, and it's like, okay, that is yours. But they grew up not very wealthy. So it is like, well, now they're in the 50s and they don't have any debt, but they haven't saved as much for retirement as they would have liked. Now, don't get me wrong, they're doing well and all that kind of stuff, but it would have been different if they would have used more money for investments than let alone just paying off debt the entire time.
Okay.
So it's a
So you,
fine balance.
yeah. So you're more in the camp of like let the money work for you harder before necessarily being debt free. Because like it's funny because it depends who you talk to, right? Like Ramsey, I've listened to a lot of his stuff. He's so about like get the debt out of here, get it
The
done
debt
with.
snowball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Which that's what we're actually kind of doing something similar to that right now because
and
it,
that's
it
more than fine.
okay.
I think I mean, so like I said, everybody has that different, but
Absolutely.
make sure you're doing that for 401k, doing your match, right? Make sure you're taking advantage of that. Make sure you have your emergency fund, and make sure we're still having some investments if you have disposable income. Not, I, the people who follow it to a T, they feel really good about themselves with the investment with paying off all debt. So
Yeah.
there is a mentality. Hey, I don't owe anybody anything. Now I can start saving for retirement.
Right.
It's just trying to find. It depends what stage in life you are at.
That
You
makes
don't
sense.
wait. Yeah. So it it balances, and I'm
Yeah.
fine with when clients are say, "Hey, I follow Ramsey." I
Yeah.
mean, I just feel like sometimes the clientele that he reaches out to are so far in over their head
Yeah.
where they need to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have any other option, right? You
Right.
are just swamped with debt.
Right.
Um, and for other people, it makes sense to do things that he doesn't say.
I
So,
you totally hear that. Like I don't know if anyone listening to the podcast today, I don't know if you know who Dave Ramsey is or not, but if you don't, you can easily YouTube or Google it and get the gist pretty quick. But
yeah.
like I thought it was interesting. Like one of his first steps is you'd get $1,000 emergency fund, and I was like, I remember sitting there thinking like, I guess it all depends on your life situation, but I live in Chicago and it's expensive, and
Yeah.
me sitting here thinking like if something went wrong with our house, $1,000 is all we had in cash, like that's not going to cover. Or even to be
Yeah.
honest,
That's
like
not
we've
going to
had
cover
issues with
anything.
the dog. Our dog ate mulch last summer, and his bill, if he would have had the surgery he needed, was going to be $5,000. And I was like, yeah, $1,000. So there's definitely things in anyone's strategy that it's not
Yeah.
bulletproof, and I think that's why I personally think finance is so interesting because it's all numbers, which people usually think numbers. There's one answer to everything, and I feel like with your wealth, that's not the case. There's like so many
Well,
different perspectives.
if we had a crystal ball and I knew what the interest rates, returns, and everything were going to be, yeah, then yes.
Right.
But we don't know those to be exact. We're using more information comes in, the more we're adapting our portfolios.
Right.
So it's just, hey, changing with the times. But to again, like say your basement floods, Shane.
Yeah. Oh, weird. Yeah. A lot of things happened last year to us.
If I had $1,000 and I paid that extra couple $100 the past couple months where to debt, but I needed that to pay for my basement.
Right.
Where do you go? You go into more debt.
Yeah.
You have to go into more debt. And it's like, okay, well, I need to get that fund back up before we end up doing that.
Right.
And Tara and I are doing a kind of a combination, right? We're still doing our investments, But I mean, as more money comes in, more money is going to pay off debt too.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
great.
like, it's a kind of more, I think in between is where most people need to fit in.
Yeah, that makes
So,
sense.
I mean, I think you need to pay off your debt, obviously, but
Yeah.
you also don't need to go, hey, I'm not putting everything in envelopes,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then it's all gone, right?
Yeah.
I also, a lot of people on this podcast are probably going to be younger, right? I'm under the viewpoint you guys need to live a little bit too.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So
Right.
there's an aspect to that. Instead of saying, hey,
100%.
I got $100. Well, in Chicago, $100 isn't going to pay for much in the
No. No, I mean it's funny. It's like it's such a balance because I mean you and I both know. Like we had a good buddy at Cummins that passed away while I was working there, and
Yeah.
he's a constant reminder to me of like he was super into investing, put everything away he could. He even like he always wanted to buy this super nice car, and he always drove this beater just so he could save extra money. And so it's like you never know too. You never know like how long you're going
Yeah.
to be around. So it's like great to have a plan, but you also, to your point, need to like live life a little bit. I think it's funny. You probably see some of this maybe when you were in Columbus working in downtown Chicago. It's hilarious that like, I mean, and I work full time for a company in the city. And so our average age is like 29 at our company, which is incredibly young. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people live in the city. They're doing well, I'm sure. I mean, most people are doing pretty well that work in the city, like salary wise. But then you have people who have a very expensive like loft apartment downtown. They walk in with all the nice designer branded everything. They have a
Yeah.
Starbucks coffee every morning. They go out to lunch every day and spend $20, $15 somewhere in Chicago. Then they get a coffee in the afternoon and they're out getting drinks at night. So there's so many different sides of the spectrum. There's people that spend every penny, like you said. If it's coming in the bank, it's going to get spent. Some people probably oversave, but it seems like from talking to you now, it definitely feels like there's just a healthy balance and a plan. And like with anything, if you don't have a plan on what you want to accomplish, you're not going to take the right
Yeah.
steps towards that.
So when we end up getting with the budget aspect of it, and you have hey, what are your expenses, what are your incomes, right? And then
Right.
you get your discretionary spend, all that kind of stuff. So when we upload all that information into our software tool, it creates a cash flow statement for you.
Oh, cool.
So it creates a balance sheet, cash flow statement. It does the whole shebang. It's pretty cool.
The whole
It's
thing.
a great
Oh, that's
software.
cool.
So yeah. And all our clients, we give it to them for free, all that kind of stuff. So it's a part of our package that we offer clients.
Okay. Yeah.
But when we end up doing, I'll send you a link after.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. I can add it to the show notes too if people want to check it out.
But one of the things that I have found a lot is not judging a book by its cover, obviously.
Yeah.
But and some of my relatives were this way too. But like we're in farm country, right?
All right,
So
for sure.
like you'll end up having somebody come in with an old beater truck, and then you end up having them, and you're just like, okay, they come in and then they show you their portfolio, and you're like, what is going on? And then you have somebody else come over and they have brand new Mercedes or new Tesla or something, and you're like, okay, well, we need to get to work, right? Like, and so it's just how people, what they put value on is different.
Sure.
And
yeah,
I don't know where you're going for lunch all the time for $20, but
I'm in Chicago, you would be shocked. You get like a little salad with some meat on it, and the bill comes up $50. That's why I bring my lunch every day.
Yeah, right. You just take RX bars all the time.
Yeah, I eat a lot of those too. Yeah, it's good to work for a food company if you live in an expensive city because you can just eat your food for free.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
That's awesome. Well, cool, man. I really appreciate it. I think we're probably running out of time. So, I mean, it was really helpful talking to you. I think people will get a ton of value out of this episode. So I appreciate you taking the time and explaining all this stuff. Is there, I always like to finish up. Is there for you, I think it'd be an interesting question of, do you have any like podcasts or books or anything you would suggest people, like if you had to pick one that you would give as a suggestion, do you have one, like a book or a podcast to name off the top of your head?
So I have another advisor in our network that does a lot of podcasts with a lot of surrounding business owners. His name is Josh Knoll.
Okay.
His podcasts are usually pretty good. But one of the Power of Zero, I think, is a very good book for people who are in this range. So it leverages, it's the Power of Zero is trying to be in the 0% tax bracket when you retire.
Oh, okay.
So it's trying to get a lot of your money in the tax-free bucket. So you have the tax-free, taxable, and tax-deferred.
Okay.
Most people's money in the tax-deferred bucket because of 401k. It's all about during that plan moving that money to that tax-free aspect of it.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's an interesting.
Yeah. Do you know who wrote the book?
David McKnight, I think.
Okay, I'll add that to the notes too, just so everyone can find that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. So, but yeah, I'll send. I'll add. We have a little video that I can send you about e-money, and then I'll give you my contact information. But if anybody wants to reach out or just have a conversation, just go to the notes and get in contact with me. I have clients all over the country. So
okay. Yeah, I was going to mention that you're based out of Indiana, but you said you have clients everywhere. So if anyone's listening to this.
Yeah, we do a lot of Zoom meetings. And if Chicago, I can go up there for a day and meet a bunch of clients, all that kind of stuff. So, I go to Nashville. I'd make that 4-hour drive all the time, right?
Yeah,
so,
you're a lot closer. I always forget how close you guys are to Nashville.
Yeah, that's right. But that's good.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. So I'll add your email address to this. What's the best way to get a hold of you if people are interested in talking to you further?
So just I'll have you attach the business card and just call the main office at the end of the bottom.
Awesome.
All right?
Okay.
Or just email me at thorn@geistingfinancial.com.
Perfect. There we go.
It's hard to spell, so you need to look at the notes.
We can look it up. I can put it in the notes. Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Cool, buddy. Well, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad we finally got it done.
I know, man. Me too. We've been talking about it for a long time. So
and if
it's good.
If you have anybody draw any questions and want to talk again, I'll be happy to come on again.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd love to have you on again. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Good deal.
All right.
We'll see you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Thorn.
Thank
you,
you,
man.
Bye.
All right. Bye.